Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The League Awards is something that Kato and Shox are piecing together to, give more recognition to people in the league scene, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful concept. I'm involved to some degree, in my humble capacity. I am on one of the panels, and maybe in some other ways that maybe it's not my right to reveal, but from an outside perspective, this is amazing. This is truly, truly fantastic. This is super, super cool. I figured I will do my nominations here, not with you guys, but in front of you guys, like a show. Nevertheless, let's get into business. Player of the Year. We start off very difficult. The first two names that come to mind for me is Chovy versus Bin. I think that Chovy in his position, I guess the main thing that we should get out of the way is that, T1 is a team that in spring were very competitive. MSI, they were third, right? And they had, of course, the most amount of success possible at the World Championship. But I do think that, the terminless nature over the majority of summer definitely matters here. I think that a domination over a longer period of time is something that matters, even though I do understand the viewpoint that, of course, the World Championship is more important. It's just that I believe T1 played maybe 170 games, and the other teams that were up there with Bilibili and Gen G also played a very large amount of games. And if you think about the vast percentage of games that were played outside of the World Championship, it's a pretty large chunk of that. So I think it's important to bear in mind. So Player of the Year, the name that comes to my mind is Bin. I think that Bin, Bin versus Chovy, the conversation is both of them come from regions where I think their role is the most stacked. You think about top laners that are busy and active in the LPL. You have Breathe, Zika, 369, Bin, of course. And then we have names like Ale that come in, while the list in, for example, the LCK becomes rather shortened very fast when you move on from the names Zeus and Keen. The next in line is Doran, Kingen, and of course the role is a little bit weaker. And on the flip side, the same thing for mid laners. I think that mid lane is very, very difficult and the most stacked role in Korea in comparison to the other roles. Because you have Chovy, Showmaker, Faker, BDD, Zeka. You have fantastic players in the mid lane. If you compare that to, for example, LPL, you have Knight, and the next players in line is like a player like Cream, who's very, very good and is very promising, but of course not up there in terms of his experience. You have Zhao, who that was relatively weak the entire year, right? And then Scout, who's of course super, super solid, but maybe there's a world where he goes back to the LCK. But nevertheless, we focus now on Player of the Year. The reason I lean towards Bin is because I think that Chovy domestically in spring had the highest possible peak. The main thing that pushes me for Bin over the edge is the fact that he won both splits, made finals of course, MSI that Gen G won, but even in that finals, I believe that he was the sole reason why that series was remotely competitive, because Gen G was in such an insane form. Obviously, in that meta, Chovy was so far ahead of his opposition. If you think about, him pulling Koki, Aurelion Soul Bands, and playing Yone and really warping the meta, I do think that Bin did incredible things in like the Camille games that he played. And I think the same thing can be said for Bin's World Championship run. Gen G did not win the split, even though they had a very, very, incredible record in terms of, their games won and games lost. I do think that losing out the finals against Zeka and then having a world championship that wasn't super impressive by Chobi standard makes me feel like Bin is my guy here in terms of looking at the whole year. So I'm going to put BUG Bin, or let's just say Bin. That's Bin. So, LCS Player of the Year. Who is the first player that comes to mind when you think about the LCS this year? Who was consistently on the top of the rules domestically and perhaps also opened eyes internationally? I think this is very easy for me. I think Inspired was very good the entire year. I think that even though I think that a lot of Team Liquid players would be close second, Yeon comes to mind. I think Impact had a pretty damn solid year too. APA, KoJJ, sadly not Umti there. I think they are very close seconds, but I have to, of course, look at the most recent stint, the last summer playoffs, and also, of course, spring regular season. And I feel like Inspired was the most consistent, and I think that he was a very big part of making FlyQuest very dynamic in terms of, the very unique jungle picks that he slammed at the World Championship. So Inspire is going to be my guy here. Let's send it in. LEC Player of the Year. So the easiest one, right, to think of is just Caps. I think Caps is the first one to come to mind, right? That's a very easy one to say. I think if there's anybody else that should be in this conversation, it needs to be just Broken Blade. It's like, are we at the point where we're going to give BB the award because he made such important strides this year in terms of moving forward, in terms of his individual skill? And should we rob Caps of what he deserves because we are used to him winning everything? I am more of the type of person to, the bar is the bar and Caps is the bar. So LEC Player of the Year probably will be true for his entire career. And I don't want to muddy the waters here because I do think that Caps was phenomenal at MSI. In Spring Split was practically carrying his whole team over the line. He had moments where he was playing not the greatest, right? Like some of the games and moments, but I never felt like he was the weakest person on his team. And I think that as well at the World Championship, he was incredible as well. So I'm going to put Caps here with BB, deserving of a mention. LPL Player of the Year, I already mentioned Bin, so I'm going to continue saying Bin here. The second name that comes to mind, right, for everybody is going to be Knight. But I do think that there were moments where Knight was playing a lot more sloppy than Bin did. I think that Knight has had very, flashy performances, especially in some in terms of like big Lucian numbers and so forth. But I do think that Knight was a part of that whole player pool that was suffering in terms of the champion pool at the World Championship. I never really enjoyed Knight playing Azir, his Aurelion Soul, or even his Corki, right? I think that those were things that weren't super exciting. I'm talking about the package Corki. So there's definitely stints where Knight was performing worse than I would want. And I think that Bin just had such a fantastic year. The only thing that was missing for Bin here was just some wins, Keep in mind, he went first place, second place, first place, second place. I'm just referring back to the Player of the Year portion. LCK Player of the Year, I think the main thing that comes to mind here is what I mentioned before, Chovy. I repeat, guys, in my mind, someone that is worth pointing out for me in terms of LCK is, of course, Canyon. I think also another player that deserves a mention, even though I think that Owner's playoff run in summer was pretty weak, is of course Owner. I think Owner helped the team cross the finish line to get the playoffs. I think that he played incredibly at the World Championship. I think he played really well at MSI as well. I think that he had a solid spring split, and I think that Owner deserves credit, I think like what happened in summer summer regular season, if Owner wasn't playing as well as he did, that could have looked way more dangerous than it ended up being, even though they went to 5 games against KT, and that's where Owner wasn't performing at his best, in my opinion. All right. Minor region star of the year. Who was the best player from a minor region this year? Minor regions exclude LCK, LEC, LCS, and LPL. So I have to say, I come at this from a position of, you know, this is tougher for me to say because I'm not super in tune with, of course, the minor regions. But the first name that comes to mind is, for example, Betty. I think Betty was insane. And then the name that comes to mind as well is Titan. Titan. And then I think that Kiaya and Levi were fantastic, and Summit. You know, but I'm focusing on, you know, international performances, and I'm assuming a lot about what they did regionally. But this is one of those, you know, nominations where I'm going to just go with what was the closest thing to heart. And I watched so much of Titan's just Champions Queue play, so I'm going to put him here. I believe it's a big N, but we're going to leave it at that. All right. Which team has the best team across the entire year? A combination of domestic placings and international performance, taking into account the most important international tournaments, MSI and Worlds. So, like if I made like a tier listing of the year, it's like T1 would be my third, where Genji and Bilibili would be 1 and 2. And then the question is, like, I think the Genji's MSI win was so impressive that I think that was a point in time where they were unequivocally the best team in the world, and no one came close. And I think that level of dominance and that peak really signifies something to me in terms of looking at the team over the entire year. And of course, Genji was very competitive. They ended up losing to, of course, the world's winners T1 at the World Championship, even though their run-up to that point was also shaky with Lehens and Paze's level, Lehens in particular. But I think Genji having such a high peak really matters to me. Rookie of the Year. Well, what kind of options do we have here? Need to think a little bit. Were there any rookies in terms of some of the teams that were on a come up? So it's kind of tough. So I'm thinking about, you know, we have Mad Lions players, we have some rookies there, right? We have some rookies there. We have trying to think of the rookies that were over in the LCK. We had like Lucid. We had in Fnatic, we had June, who was a rookie, I believe. G2 has no rookies. Oh my days. No rookies. This one's very tough for me. I'm trying to think if there's any names that stand out. Are there any rookies in the LPL teams? None in Bilibili, none in Weibo, none in LNG either. So I'm trying to think of what players were at the World Championship that were actually rookies. LCS APA played last year, even though like in some weird way he's also a rookie. Yeon is in his second year. Well, Masu. That's the name. Masu is the guy. Masu is the guy, plain and simple. Sorry for frustrating you for such a long time. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm doing these real time. So definitely I obviously, you know, just this is my brain is open for you to look inside. I'm sorry that it's disappointing and empty sometimes. All right. So Masu, of course, was incredible this year. What a fucking growth. And in my mind was a top 5 ADC at the World Championship, which is incredibly rare in the last couple of years when it comes to, you know, AD carries, you know. I think that, you know, we have an occasional AD, like 2020, we had good AD, like Reckless Hilly were fucking insane. 2021, 2022, like we had this moment with Hilly, Reckless, of course. I mean, Hilly upset, where they were like playing well against T1's bot lane, 2v2 and so forth. All right. Broadcast talent of the year. Who was your favorite on-air talent across the world esports this year? Taking into account performance, storytelling, standing, community creating of memorable moments during the tournaments. I don't know, the first person that comes to my mind here is just hysterics. The hysterics in Dagda for me are just so damn good. And like there's just so many memorable moments. And the first main that just comes to my mind, I feel like hysterics brings a level of energy that is so infectious. There's a lot of casters that are just insanely good. I think Medic and Vedius, Kobe and Captain Flowers, but I wanna give here, of course, you know, we have Dracos as well. You know, all my homies really fucking talented at what they do. I just want to really give my flowers here to Hysterics because I do think that he made a very, very big impression on me this year. Esports Creator of the Year. Esports Creator of the Year. Esports Creator of the Year, like plain and simple, has to be like I think it's weird because Kato was making these awards, so I guess he can't win them. I don't think he can win them. Can he win these awards? Can he win these awards? I guess no, right? Because then the reason I'm thinking Kato, right, is because I think that his videos leading up to Worlds were like really, really good. He involved like people from across the board. He's like upping production quality. He broke like barriers in terms of, you know, viewership, and he was always involved. I think the main thing for me personally, I think the fact that Dom was in tune with all of the regions and watched all of the regions and put in the most hours. I have a great respect for that because I do that myself. But I'm going to send. I will dominate. That's my guy. That's my guy. Community Creator of the Year. For creators who underappreciate the heroes in making League of Legends content more accessible. Think broad League of Legends content, cosplay, music, champ breakdowns, educational. Community Creator of the Year. I don't know, in my mind, man, I love Necrit, man. I think Necrit, I really consume Necrit's content. So Necrit's gonna be my guy. Like, I think he just makes lore so digestible and interesting, and I'm a big fan of Necrit. I had the pleasure of meeting him in person too, you know? Like, this is my guy. Content piece of the year. What was the best League of Legends content piece of the year? This category excludes Riot-made content to highlight content made by community figures. I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is like some of the. It's like the Don Jake owner interview. Albania better, you know, like Albania better is just one of the coolest moments ever, in my opinion. I really, really enjoy that moment. Albania better. So I'm leaning towards that. It's where my mindset is at. I think I just have to trust my gut here, because if I'm gonna owner interview, I think if it was probably, maybe if I think about this longer, maybe something else comes to mind. But this was the main thing that just came to mind right away. But now when I think about it, like, I think the owner documentary, honestly, I'm sorry, Don Jake, but T1 chef documentary, honestly, that shit, that was the best. But I feel like T1 is kind of, they're kind of, okay, it doesn't fit. It's not by a community figure. It's not about a community figure. So Don Jake, owner interview. Okay, Don Jake, Ruddy, esports, owner interview. It has to be like this. Okay, it's by community figures. T1 is an entity, bro. That's a behemoth. They have the production quality. They have all the good stuff. Best Riot release of the year. What was the best piece of content Riot produced this year? I think content coming out of domestic leagues and content for national tournaments. It has to be either the final teaser or the semi-final, like the semi-final teaser between Genji and T1, right? Prove it. I think that the final one has a special place in my heart too because of how they showed messages from family, and that was incredibly touching and moving too. So has to be just World Finals teaser. BDB versus T1. I'm gonna put this one. I think it was incredible. Incredible. Play of the year. Oh shit. So Faker Silas was kind of it was so beautiful on so many levels that it's hard for me to think about anything else. Because it's like another play that comes to mind, right, is that Bin Oriana 5-man shockwave against Genji, but they lost that game. The story of what Faker did in that game leading up to that moment and how crucial that moment was to turn around the whole series, being down 2-1, I think is just makes the play way too incredible. I'm sure there's like mechanically more impressive plays like Chovy Azir and Spring Split, some of the shit that he did. Definitely there's like moments that are more mechanically impressive. Like I remember that How Alive series that they played that went to 5 games, and he did some crazy things on Azir to drag his team over the finish line. But I think that the Faker moment, Faker, Silas, game 4 versus Bilibili. Everybody knows if I say that. Creator event of the year. What was the best creator community event held this year? What event really embodied the spirit of our community through the setup, execution, and entertainment? Damn. I'm completely blanking here, man. Completely blanking. I am completely blanking. I am completely blanking on this one. Not sure, man. I don't know what this is. I'm blanking. I can't think of any events. Best caster call of the year. Also, bro. I am just screaming like a maniac in some most of the high moments, so I definitely miss out on a lot. Honestly, there's a moment that stands out, but she's not a caster. Is like Shox's toss to the opening ceremony was so fucking. It was perfect, man. Like her timing and the words that she spoke were just perfect. Escape of the year. Yamato getting benched from KC. No, I'm kidding. Joking. Best escape of the year. It has to be, guys, it has to be Zeus, Camille, Flash, and Fog. Who was that against? That was versus TES, I believe. I believe it was versus TES. Steal of the year. Has to be owner, T1 owner versus G2. What was the single most memorable moment from the LoL esports year? What moment invigorated the community, had its impact felt even outside of the league sphere? It has to just be T1 winning Worlds, no? There's no other way, man. T1 Worlds, like that is, it's just in terms of impact, it just wins. There's just no other way around it. All right, how do I send it? How do I send it? How do I send it? There's no button. Your submission will be used to determine the final nominees for each award. You can skip awards if you don't know what to enter nominations for. All right. So it's done. Holy, what a well-made website. Look at these beautiful people. Partner, Twitch, League Awards. Lovely. All right. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Some cool videos coming up. We're breaking down the World Championship, a little discussion piece, breaking down Chovy's past World Championship runs, and we're doing some more stuff as well. I wish you guys all the best in the world. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.